welcome to the Stacking to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42 here talking about some top stacks courtesy of at Zach Scott Moxie on Twitter once again. And starting off here at the top, he does mention he thinks it's going to be a high-scoring week, and it's hard to disagree with that. Lots of guys in great spots here, so I'm going to highlight some of his favorite stacks for you here. Starting off with the Cardinals against the Ravens. This one's kind of a no-brainer in a Monday night showdown, and the Ravens have been absolutely terrible. Cardinals, second in points per game at 33.8, seventh in passing yards per game, and those numbers even a little bit skewed by a game where Carson Palmer barely had 100 yards passing, but 3 touchdowns and a beatdown of the Lions. So those numbers could be even better there. And Ravens giving up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks and second to wide receivers. Should be a popular stack, but definitely one that could pay off for you. Carson Palmer, Fitzgerald, John Brown. John Brown did miss some practice on Friday, so keep that in mind here. Michael Floyd looking like a nice enticing option to slot in there as an alternative, or if you're just trying to swerve a little bit. He's a guy that caught a touchdown pass and was very close to having a second and a third last week. So definitely keep him in the back of your mind there as well, especially with John Brown's status. So double check that before you lock him in there. 28-point team total for the Cardinals. Not going to get a much better spot than this one. Stack number 2, the Colts against the Saints. 28.5 team total. And Zach says he thinks that the Colts are the best swerve off of the Cardinals. It's hard to disagree with that. Second highest point total on the board, and a good matchup against the Saints secondary that has been terrible. Allowing 27.3 points a game, 409.7 total yards per game, which is the worst in the league. And they've given up second most points per game to quarterbacks, and Andrew Luck looked good in his time back. So he's got in here Andrew Luck, Moncrief, and Hilton. Hilton, another guy who has had some practice issues this week, so double check his status as well. But if he doesn't go, that's just going to increase the value for a guy like Dante Moncrief in this matchup. So that's a good spot there. Next up, a value stack. Steelers at the Chiefs. And as he mentions here, he never thought that it would be a value stack for the Steelers, and this may be the last week. Ben Roethlisberger could end up being back really any week now. And Landry Jones, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant looks like a nice stack here. Thankfully for the Steelers, for all of us that want to play these elite pass catchers for the Steelers, thank God Michael Vick is out of the picture there. Chiefs giving up 278 yards a game through the air, allowed the most fantasy points to wideouts, and Brown is a guy that is going to be very, very low owned this week, I would imagine, due to the fact that he really has struggled without Ben Roethlisberger. But Landry Jones did target him 5, would have been 6 times if you don't count a penalty in the one half that he was in the game. So definitely a guy that I'm a big fan of throwing out there, and well below the elite salaries, and we know that he is an elite player. So Martavis Bryant, though, going to be a very popular play, was one of the most popular plays at any position on the Thursday contest. So keep that in mind there. Contrarian stack here, Saints against the Colts. That's a high total, as mentioned earlier. Shootout written all over. Drew Brees is third in the NFL in passing yards per game with 302. Colts have not been good against the pass, despite having Vontae Davis, who was arguably the best cover corner in the game. Colts are 28th in passing yards and allowing 289 passing yards per game. They're one of 4 teams allowing 400-plus yards as well. And Brandon Cooks, as Zach mentions here, has him a little bit worried because he is matched up on Vontae Davis. But Drew Brees, Willie Snead, the rest of these guys certainly in play for your tournaments there. So that's the wrap up there. If you got any questions about that, find Zach on Twitter at Zach Scott Moxie. We are at DF Cafe on Twitter. Find us there. Check that out. Make sure you check out the rest of our great NFL content at dailyfantasycafe.com.